Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Parrish here. Today's topic is two types of people that I see moving to Mexico. Now, this isn't any way of judging anybody. This is just over my experience over the years, the clients I've dealt with. I kind of put them in two different categories. Two types of people that essentially move to Mexico. Two very different types, okay? The ones that are a little bit more bolder and braver, and the other type that's a little bit more reserved, not as brave, maybe just a little bit scared. Not worried, but just not as brave as the other groups. So the two groups I'm gonna call them one as you have the typical resorters, okay? You have the people that have gone to resorts all their lives. They're, a little afraid of getting outside the resort, outside the resort walls. They generally don't leave the resort and venture into what I call, real Mexico, authentic Mexico. And that's fine. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to bash on either type. Everyone has a different comfort level, right? And and that's just the way the world is. That's just the way people are. And what I find, the best experiences in Mexico, you'll find not at a resort. You'll find in the more authentic Mexican beach towns, the smaller communities where it's less tourists, less busy. You can blend in and mix with the locals and really understand the culture and the people. So, so the resorters, I call them, that's kind of type one. Even the people that, let's say they move to Playa del Carmen, Tulum, Puerto Vallarta. These people like the familiarity. They've moved to Mexico, yes, but they also want to be associated or be around other expats. It makes them feel more comfortable, right? Not just being in, a Mexican town or a Mexican village where there's no tourists. It's mostly Mexican, Spanish speaking, not much English. So I see a lot of people that move to these areas. Playa del Carmen, I'll use for an example because I've lived there for a few years. They need that constant. They just need to be around other English speaking people. It makes them feel safer, more comfortable, and just maybe that's just what they like about Mexico. That's Mexico to them. That's what they love about Mexico, and that's fine. And so I'm gonna shift over to the other type now. Type two. Type one was the resorters, the people that move to the more familiar areas and be around, the more expats and tourists. And essentially that's Mexico to them. Now, type two is the complete opposite. These are the people that want to immerse themselves in the Mexican culture and history and move to a more authentic town or city or beach community and get away from the resorts, get away from the tourists, and really immerse themselves in the culture, understand the language, the people, the way of life in Mexico. These are the braver types, okay? These are the ones that are explorers, are maybe more seasoned travelers, and just feel comfortable and they're not resort people. And I'm not a resort person. I mean, I've lived in Mexico so many years, and I love a resort for 2 nights. Okay, maybe 3 at the most. It's a great getaway. Don't get me wrong. I love being pampered and some all inclusives and meals and pig out and drink and sit on the beach and sit by the pool. But I can only handle a couple nights. But it is a great getaway. I couldn't do a week. That's for sure. But so getting back to this type of people, of person, is like, for me, for example, when I first moved to Mexico, I moved to a small, authentic Mexican beach community called Mahahuel, which is, it's south of Tulum, obviously a touristy and chaotic area. But Mahahuel is 2.5 hours south of Tulum, close to the Belize border, where there are a few expats, not many, and it's basically a small. It's a cruise ship port. The cruise ships come in a few times a week, but it also is a really kind of, in a way, an authentic Mexican beach town. It's really remote and mostly Spanish speaking. And I was basically just thrown in and kind of forced to learn my way with the people and blend in and even talk Spanish. And a little tip, if you're moving to Mexico or planning to, pick up the app called Duolingo. I did that for about a few months before I moved down. And I picked up a lot of words that got me by, little words that just got me by day to day things. And really, because down there there was, times where I'd be the only, foreigner in a restaurant or at the store, and, I had no one to translate for me. So, and back then, I don't even think 9 years ago, I don't even know if Google Translate even existed as an app, but I didn't know, I didn't have it. But anyways, nowadays, with all the apps and stuff, it's much easier to carry around your phone and, translate everything. But so these are the people that are more, like I said, more seasoned travelers, more brave, more adventurous, and they want to move to a place where you're not going to find tourists. They're going to, maybe get a couple expats, but it's going to be mostly Mexican, mostly Spanish speaking. They're going to immerse themselves in the culture. They want to learn the language. They want to mix with the people, get involved in the community. And this isn't Playa del Carmen, this isn't Puerto Vallarta. This would be, smaller beach communities. Let's say, for example, in Yucatan State, Telchac, which is east of Progreso. Telchac would be a good example. Chicxulub, San Crisanto, even further south, Santa Clara. And there's tons of places, throughout Mexico. Campeche State is another example where there are a lot of foreigners now moving to that area. It's becoming more and more popular. But the state of Campeche, which is over, by the Yucatan State, Campeche City, there's a lot of little communities there that it's really authentic Mexico. I visited a few times. I've been there. You don't see many tourists. You see mostly Mexican tourists from North Mexico, but it's mostly locals. And so we're seeing a lot of, Canadians, Americans that are kind of relocating there now because it's just, there's no resorts around. It's less touristy, less busy, and it's just more authentic Mexico. And, there's tons of places throughout Mexico, state of Chiapas, all over North Mexico, Monterrey, where, Americans and Canadians are looking at relocating just because it is less touristy and, less expat. So again, not that either type is right or wrong. There's no judging. It's just that's kind of the two that, I've seen. And the resort people, I would say they're the ones that typically would buy a condo in a place called, like Playa del Carmen, Cancun, or, Tulum, Puerto Vallarta, Huatuco, etc., Cabo, just because to them that's more familiar. That's what they makes them feel, safe and secure and fine, and that's totally acceptable, totally fine. So like I said, I was, basically forced into immersing myself in the country with the local people. I think that's the best way to learn for yourself is you gotta force yourself to be uncomfortable and to learn new things and explore. And that's, I think, the fastest way that you can learn to, especially if Mexico is going to be a right fit for you or not, you got to really get outside of those typical communities and see what real Mexico is like, and see if it's for you, if you feel comfortable, because some people don't. Some people have the dream of living in Mexico, and it just happens. Just like anywhere in the world, people move and people find out they don't like a certain area, a way of life, and they move on. So I was, basically after Mahahual, I lived a little bit in Playa del Carmen, lived a small beach community in the state of Yucatan, outside the city of Merida. And I also, which I was the only, at the property where I was living at, I was the only, say gringo, but I'm Canadian. I was the only foreigner. The whole other property, it was a big kind of a condo complex, pretty big property. And I was the only, foreigner there for most of the time. There would be the odd renter would be a foreigner, Canadian. I met a couple Canadians renting there, but for short term. But then I lived in Merida. I lived in a few different areas in Merida. Most of them, again, I was the only, foreigner. This was 5-6 years ago. Although things have changed now in Merida, it's gotten to be expat heaven. Merida really took off the last, 2-3 years. When I first moved there, I lived in North Merida, not downtown. I would visit downtown quite a bit, but living in North Merida, I would never see like or hear people talking English or never see a Canadian or American. But within the last year, even going around in North Merida at a restaurant or a mall, I would see foreigners everywhere, English speaking. So it really Merida really changed in the last couple of years as well. Downtown Central area, it's full of expats now as well. So that's just the way the real estate goes. The markets change and people find a new area and properties boom and take off. So that's the way of the world, right? So anyways, hope you guys liked this video, found it informative. Again, not judging on any type. These are the two types of people that I generally have seen, and maybe you'll resonate or you'll fit into one of those categories. And I urge you to really, if you're looking at taking a vacation, to a resort, maybe try renting an Airbnb. If you're looking at a resort around Cancun or Playa del Carmen, maybe just look at an Airbnb in downtown Playa del Carmen. I've lived there. It's completely safe. Be aware of your surroundings, obviously. Maybe try an Airbnb. Maybe get yourself out of that comfort zone. And especially if you're thinking about buying a property someday, eventually, this will be a good test for you. Rent an Airbnb, check it out, walk around Fifth Avenue, walk around, even if you're in Cancun, there's Airbnbs you can rent as well. Merida is a good option as well. Puerto Vallarta, it's just a different experience than a resort. That's a suggestion that I can make, is just to try that out and see how you feel and see if you're comfortable. So anyways, if you found this useful, informative, please like, subscribe, and share this content. I'd really appreciate it. Help me grow my channel. And that's it for now. Hasta luego. We'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.